There we go. Good. Good to spend some time with all of you, business builders. We're joined today by Mike Green, who is a coach and world traveler, and Mike is the author of the book Wandermust: A Hero's Journey to Seven Truths. And I want to acknowledge Tom Rubens is here. Some of you have met Tom, some of you have not. Tom was nice enough. Gosh, time flies. I guess that's been a year and a half or so ago. Tom wrote a book called Lifeness, which if you've ever heard me talk about not work-life balance, but harmonizing the harmonizing work and life, Tom's book Lifeness is taking the word life and business and putting them together. So Lifeness is a story. I really like the book a lot. And Tom came and shared his story with everybody when I was fishing one day in Maine. So Tom, good to have you back. Mm-hmm. And the connection to Mike Green is that Mike and I met when we were in a mastermind group, much like what you are all in. Mike and I were in a group that was led by Tom Rubens and Chad James. So sometimes I'll talk about my friend Chad. Chad and Tom had started a group called Master Coach Forum. And I met Mike because we were both members of Master Coach Forum being led by Tom. And so, yeah, Mike, it is nice to have all three of us in the same frame again. And Tom's in Idaho, right, Tom?
Yes, I am. The only person on this call that's west of me is Mike. Yeah, I'm in Boise, Idaho.
So really great to have you here today. And yeah, so without further ado, Mike, I know you kind of thought ahead and met the business builders by watching videos of the calls that we did with Melissa and Steve. Thanks for doing that. And I'll let you take it away. And when you feel kind of ready to take questions, do that, and off we go.
Right. Well, thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your well-scheduled days to be here. I'm grateful for that. I'm honored to be here. I didn't know Tom was going to be here, so it's kind of like, wow, if I go back in time where we all met one another in that mastermind group, it was I just kind of think back of where I was in those 5 years ago, I guess it was. So I'm grateful to be here. I have given it a lot of thought. I actually have thought about this more than I've thought about a lot of things lately, about how best I can create value, or we can create value for each other today. And I thought it would be just basically I'd talk about an incident or experience I just had recently, and how that intertwined with my thought process on how everything we do, much like Tom's book, creates our life or our business. Something comes from it. And at the beginning of my book, I spoke about how I came from a fourth-generation railroad family up in Hornell, New York, which is basically 70 miles south of Rochester, New York. And that all I knew was that my father went to work in the morning, came back at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon every day, had Thursdays and Fridays off. And he always gave back to his guys because he was the head chief dispatcher for the railroad. So any trains that came through New York, my father was basically the air traffic control chief of all of it. So in the mornings on Christmas, we would always go down to the depot and things like that. So my father would always take us kids down there to play with our toys so that he could give back to his guys and they can be with his family. And that really hit me. And I've been thinking about that because we're almost in Christmas and I'm spending a lot of time with my boys. And when I was in this small town, everybody did basically the same thing. They worked for the railroad, they worked for the state, or they were school teachers, or they had small businesses. And I started noticing, if a kid can notice, I guess, that I loved to have adventure or travel. My parents would drop me off at the park in the south side of town, and I would find myself to the north side of town at Kmart 3 miles away. And the first thing old people would say to me, people my parents' age, "Do your mother know where you are?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine." Well, that started that whole adventure experience. And I noticed that I did it more than everyone else, but I didn't do it with a malicious intent. And then later on in life, I noticed that I started asking good questions. It just came naturally that I had this desire to support others and ask good questions. And it came from a place I didn't know where it came from, honestly. And I didn't notice it. It was really foundational when my mother and my friend's mother met in the aisle number 4 at Acme or AMP. I can't remember which one it was. And my friend's mother said to my mom, your son asks really good questions. And she goes, yeah, he does that. And that solidified that I am doing something different. Now, I was a senior in high school and I was a pretty good wrestler. I didn't win a lot. I won a lot, but I was scheduled to really win a bunch of tournaments. And I ultimately went on an Outward Bound course. And if you're familiar with Outward Bound, it's the experiential education program that takes people outside their comfort zone and puts them in extreme situations, much like in the back of my here. I went to Ely, Minnesota to do dog sledding, cross country skiing. And I was a senior in high school thinking that I was going to win a couple of weight classes and tournaments. And when I went to Outward Bound, I realized that there's a different life out there and that a seasonal work was possible. So my whole life just kind of expanded. And when I was out there on my solo, I remembered a quote, or basically a quote from a gentleman by the name of Ibn Battuta. Now, this is where legacy comes in play. Now, Ibn Battuta was a Islamic traveler. He was a cleric. He was an attorney. He did everything. He traveled all over the world in basically 947 or something. And he wrote a quote that I read in a book at the local library that really opened up my eyes that I could actually travel, having been in an area where everybody does the same thing. And that's where things started to click for me, that I like to travel. I ask good questions, but then add on doing things that everybody else doesn't do. And we as business owners or builders, we're doing things that we're filling a niche, or we're trying to give a service or a product to somebody who better than the next guy or the next business. And as I went through this experience, I realized that I was not going to do what everybody else did. I did take my SATs because I didn't want to be lumped in a sum with everyone else, teach to the test, etc. I did my own thing. And it was only until I met my guidance counselor. Believe it or not, a guidance counselor had said something to me. He said, Mike, you just do things different than everybody else, and it's okay. And that literally set me on my way to be able to say, I'm going to do things differently. So I went to school and got my criminal justice degree. And I started working in the experiential education programs, whether it be recovery ranches out in Washington State, Leavenworth, Washington, working with kids with drug and alcohol addiction and teaching them winter survival skills. And as I was doing all these different things, people were saying, what's that going to amount to anything? What are you doing? You got to settle down. You got to settle down. You got to settle down. And I'm saying you got to settle down. But if we listen to our own self-talk or what people say to us about the businesses we build or the products we offer or services we offer, we hear a lot of that negativity. Or we even have it in our self-talk. Thus, people create or congregate inside a business builder, much like this. And recently, so I'll go now from back then, now a couple months ago, I have some Norwegian friends up in Fairbanks, and one of them is a very well-known adventure, I guess you would call her somebody who's an influencer. She's hiked from the top of Norway all the way to the south of Norway by herself. And she has these workaway people here, these kids that come from all over the world to work with her for free, right? There's an idea, Wayne. Work for free. And I was talking to them, they were 25 and they've been traveling in different places, and they were workaway, so they would just travel from job to job and get room and board. And they said something to me, and we started a conversation that what I wanted to talk about today is that they were saying the same things I was experiencing back when I was 21, 22, 23. my parents always say, well, when are you going to settle down? My friends are all going to college. My friends are doing the things that everyone else does. And they just say that I'm living a life of no responsibility, etc. And I stopped and I said, back when I was your age, I was hearing the same thing, but no one ever told me what I'm about to tell you. It all adds up. Everything that we do today, everything we've done in the past adds up to the products or services or the businesses that we're building today.
Amen.
And it's really important to acknowledge that our time wasn't wasted.
Amen.
Even the bad experiences were experiences that we could learn from. There is, much like Steve said in his video a couple of weeks ago, or his talk, it's what is the gift? And too often back in those days, I never even looked at it as a gift. I was just thinking, how am I going to get another tank full of gas? Or how am I going to get from Washington State to Maryland to work at the largest, ropes course in the country? Or how am I going to get to Russia and things like this? But it all adds up. So all the things that we do today add up into who we are. For example, I started this conversation with us today and I said, I'm well scheduled. You're all well scheduled, as opposed to being busy, right? So there's a difference. It adds up. So how did that serve me as I traveled the world? What propelled me? Well, I never really understood the desire to, why did I want to keep going? Why did I want to check things out? And it all came down to wanting to find out for myself and the drive to go to Russia because I didn't know anybody who'd been there. One of my teachers said to me, look for what you find there, not what you hear before you arrive. And that was really important to me when I went to Russia. So how did it all come together? I left my hometown, went off to Washington. How many people read the book? I mean, I know that Tom did. Good. So yeah, all right, great. Thank you for spending the time to do that. I hope you gain some insight. Well, in the book, I talk about how I started traveling the world and how I got to one place. And a lot of the stories that you don't read about is how I prepared myself to be able to do those things that you read about. For example, when I got a one-way ticket to London from New York, I literally put an ad in the newspaper and I said, clean your gutters and rake your leaves. 10% discount to old people, something like that. So I did that. And I didn't have the heart to charge, Grandma Annie. So everybody's like, you can't keep doing this. You got to be able to. I said, well, much like Melissa Ford said the other day, don't charge, see what happens and comes back to you, basically. That's how I got the message. So I didn't realize that at the time that good karma or the ability to help other people by just simply cleaning the gutters and stuff, that allowed me the presence of mind to show up, right? Because you got to leave well in order to show up well into your next chapter of your life, the next year, if you will, or the next product that you're going to offer. So 3 things we've talked about so far. One, that it takes just a conversation with one person to realize that everything does add up. 3 is the third thing is that it's important to understand that the mindset and looking for the good and supporting others allows you to arrive well in that situation, right? Well, when I was, so for example, other than cleaning gutters, getting to London and such, it was those little things that set me up for great success when I arrived, so that I could interact with people from a place of, I'm here to learn more about you. And that's how I pretty much was the foundation of it all. Little did I know that all these little adventures that people were calling, or chapters of my life, were adding up to being what I am today. What am I today? We'll talk about that in a moment. But in the big picture of things, I knew that I had adventure, and I knew that I like to help people coming from an altruistic state in a humble space. And I like to use the outdoors as a way in which to allow people to grow take them out of their, kind of use the outward bound model, take them out of their normal everyday life, and ultimately create a space or hold that conversation or that container of the experience and the conversation that's ongoing, so that they can have that experience. So then I went into facilitate. So eventually I started doing leadership and communication facilitation courses for organizations. I would just basically facilitate their material. And I really liked that. But one day, as I said in the book, someone came to me and said, you should take this out to the people. And I started doing that. And it really helped to understand that I can do something. But again, we have, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, I never touched iron on a drill rig. I've never made a hole as a driller. I haven't done these things as a coal miner. I haven't done these things. And that that experience in my head where people said, you're not good enough, started creeping in, wondering what is the best thing that can possibly do. So imagine me out there on a drill rig or coaching people about, on the drill rigs, or being in a cybersecurity office building, coaching people about things I didn't know anything about. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work to be able to say and ask those questions. So I always had to go back to what I knew, and I knew that I really wanted to help people, and then I also wanted to support them in their journey. The word truth never came to me at this juncture. Only until later on did I realize that what that was happening was called truth. Now, at this juncture in my life where I was working with people that I never had any experience in cybersecurity, never had experience in drilling, never had experience in the medical or aerospace, but I did ask good questions, and that was the value I kept. So I was always searching for something, and that's something. And only until I had a coaching conversation with my coach did I realize that the things I come from are the truths that I know to be true, the things that are non-negotiable. One, that I come from a place of service. I'm a servant leader. I come from a place of courage. It takes a lot of courage to sit down in a boardroom and listen, and then be the guy that asks the question or supports the meeting agenda or the intent. And once I found those truths, I really started to become a juggernaut. I really started to excel because I always made my decisions based off of those truths. So as I started looking back on my life with my coach about the experiences where I learned courage and things, I started thinking about, wow, that's a truth from an experience. Now, if I can support someone through an experience that can help them find their truths, and when they make their decisions based off their truths, they're more congruent leaders. When they're congruent, they show up both in the timbre of their voice, their body language, the words they use, creates better conversations, better decisions create better experiences for our workers or our customers, allows us to have an experience like no other, and they want more of that. So I didn't know it at the time, this is years ago, that these truths were going to be foundational in what I am today. And we'll get there in a moment. So when I started talking about these truths, I would ask the question, what is the truth? I would say, well, what's real about you? Or what's truth? Eventually I didn't get to the word truth, but once I did, I said, what's true about you? So I want you to think about this for a moment. And if you're writing down notes, or if you want to just mentally think about it, in the event that you're at a surprise party for you, your business put it on for you, your workers put it on, or you're around the campfire at Wayne's place, and I ask the question, what's true about you? What's one of those non-negotiable things that you want people to say about you at your anniversary of 10 years in business, 50 years in business, 20 years in business? What are those? I'll give you a couple moments to think about those. Okay. Well, you have several of them down, I hope, or at least one or two. Now, as you look at those, ask yourself, are there some similar? For example, if you had fun and fun loving or fun or fun to be around or a good sense of humor, they might be the same. So just keep that in mind for when this activity is over. And when you write those truths down and you look at them, are you showing up in those truths? And I want you to think about, when's the last time an individual, whether it be a worker, a family member, a customer, someone you interact with, had that experience with you, said, wow, Kim is a very humble person, a very giving person. She asked great questions in her podcast. I really enjoyed that podcast with Wayne and her. So, or when you talk to Tom, Tom's written down insightful. When's the last time that experience happened around you? And if it hasn't been a while, then the question is why? If it has been a while, say, okay, great. Which one of those other ones that you haven't done lately or haven't experienced lately or people haven't experienced? Now, hopefully you have at least 3 or 4, etc. And then the thing is, think of a question, think of an issue or an opportunity or a problem. Somebody might have came to you and said, I have a problem. When an instance where you can choose here, I'll give you a choice, either when you made a decision based off that truth, or you made a decision you went against that truth. Say maybe you were really flustered, your kids keep asking you to put up the Christmas tree, it's only Thanksgiving's not even put away yet, and they keep haranguing you about, Dad, put up the Christmas tree, put up the Christmas tree. And I came from a place of, I'm tired. We haven't even cleaned up Thanksgiving yet. So I didn't come from a place of service. Or think about when I have a client staying at my house right now, and we were up late last night having a conversation, although I wanted to go to bed. And I came from a place of service, if you will. And as you look at this list, and this list can grow as your day goes on today, if you think back in this moment, how often do you come from that? And then if you really think about it, if we can for just a moment, think back to that moment and just get how are you feeling? The modality, if you will, of that moment. Now, when I was angry that my kids have been asking me for days on end, can we put the Christmas tree up? I get a little fiery, I get a little impatient, and then I say something that I don't want to say, and that happens. And then, okay, so what can I do to change that? But also on the other side of that, think about when you answered a customer's question or an employee's question and you came from a place of truth. So there's 3 things that's happened right now. We've talked about how in my life, the things that I was doing at the time, I didn't know all add up. I knew that there was some truths to me, although I didn't know to call them that were part of who I am, and that when I come from a place of those truths or act from a place or speak from a place of those truths, I have great experiences. I mean, I went around the world and worked on different continents with hardly any money whatsoever, barely, you know? And then the third thing is when we come from those truths, what are the experience? What do you feel? What's the modality? What's your self-talk sound like? What's your body feel like? What's the response of the person or the reaction when you come from the place of truth and when you don't? And when you have, let's just say you have 5 of those right now, you have some that you do really well all the time, great. So that one you don't necessarily have to give attention to. Attention or intention, as we leave here today, I want you to have the intention to work on the truth that you don't necessarily have so often. or that you'd rather come from that place more often than not, or recently because it's the end of the year and the holiday season. I'm really having a hard time being patient. Again, these truths are things that are non-negotiable, that when people stand up and talk about you, you hope they say it because they get you, they understand you. Now, these are a general swath of people in your life. And then also, I can send a list to Wayne, and I'll send a participant guide if you wish to Wayne at the end of this, where you can go over and you can look at a whole list of words that could be your truth, and you can follow through the experience if you wish. I'll send that to Wayne either way. And then you can ask, or even ask those employees of yours. It's a real simple experience. You've done it. I've done it with you. And you say, okay, circle some. And then now I want you to, this is what I want you to do now. Those truths that you have, let's just assume you have 5 or 3, rank them. Rank them. What's most important? What's second important? What's third? Is there something missing? If there is, just jot down a couple words that represent what is missing, or a thought or a feeling. Like I used to have the syndrome where you think you're not good enough all the time. And I had to come find confidence instead, that I deserve to sit in this chair with these multi-million-dollar people and to ask a good question that can help shift the conversation. I deserve to do that. I earned my time. And that's what I'm going to talk about now. And as you get those truths and you acknowledge them, say, okay, so what are some of what's missing? Is there anything missing? If there is something missing, what is it? Take a moment to write that down. Maybe gratitude, relaxation, time for yourself, a new yoga mat. A yoga mat represents the ability to be peaceful, right? Okay. Now, it wasn't until I wrote the book, Wandermust, that I really stepped into who I was, because I had to go back in time and think about how I got to those locations, those different continents. And I started seeing these truths come up: courage, emotional intelligence. And if you read that part of the book, emotional intelligence, I was in Iraq, and I was literally in a little office, smoking a cigar, watching the dust dance through the sunlight, smoking a cigar, a nice cigar, and interviewing with the guy on the bottom of the planet, thinking I was all that because I could utilize a forklift, telescoping forklift, go into a Chinook, grab the pallet, bring it back out, and I thought I was the best thing ever. Well, if you read the story, I fell far and hard long after that interview. Right? So I didn't come from a place of truth then, and I knew it at the time, but it felt great interviewing. Hey, I'm in the sands of Iraq, talking to a guy in the ice in Antarctica, smoking a cigar, drinking my iced tea. Felt great, but it was not true. So think about that. So just to recap, what are the truths that you want people to talk about? If you have 2 or 3, great. I would suggest you have more, some number. What's missing? When's the last time you came from a place of those that was a positive experience? When's a place where you weren't showing up as much? Why? And that's where a coach comes in to help you out. What happened? What took place? Help you pack that out. Okay. Let me just look at the chat briefly. Yeah, you deserve to be there. Yeah. Yeah. Because, Melissa, for me, I didn't go to university and get my MBA, but I'm talking to a guy that's making huge decisions. He was running $4.5 million a day operation, and he's looking to me to ask a question that helps shift his thought process. And I would think, well, God, I don't have an MBA. What do I deserve to be in here? But only until I came from my places of truth did I find myself deserving to be there. I'm okay to be here. Just so, and I'll wrap this up with an opportunity for you if you choose to take it. We all have confidants within our business or within our lives. Take that list of truths and ask your confidant, someone you trust, and say, I'll use Mr. Buddy, for example. Say Buddy goes and asks his, he's a chiropractor, I think Buddy is, correct? Yep, Buddy is a chiropractor. He comes and talks to his business partner and he says, hey, I got a question for you. Look at these words. Is this me? Is this what you experience? And if you have that relationship, just ask him. If you have a relationship where you can trust them in that, you feel comfortable doing that, you don't have to give them all 5 or all 7 or whatever number you have. Just give them one. Say, my intention has been for the last X amount of weeks to be more in service of my time, give you of my time. Don't rush, be there, present, abundantly listen. Have you experienced that lately? You might be surprised at the answer. Both good. So, yeah. Well, that's why Melissa's good news is you're surrounded by amazing and great people that they've been there, and it's okay. You're going to be okay. Patience and grace, right? Patience and grace. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll leave it at this, and when you're ready, find one of those truths that you could be showing up more, or look back at a question or an experience where you had the opportunity to come from that truth, but you didn't. Or if you can forecast that you're going to have that crucial conversation with somebody coming up, and you have that list of truths, whether it be on a Post-it note right outside, right in front of your door as you leave your door. I used to have my clients put it right by their door as they walk out, eye level, so they see it. So they set the intention prior to their arrival in the meeting, because body language speaks far louder than words. Timbre in our voice speaks far louder than the words that we use. Are you coming from that? And does it set you up? And then just notice the experience that you have or that person has. Right? Wayne, I want to make sure that I give time for question and answers. Before we go to questions and answers, is there any clarifications that I need to make, or any questions or comments about what I've already said? Okay.
Anybody? Kim, you unmuted.
Yeah, you saw that real quick. I love this exercise. Am I going in and out?
No,
You're
okay, fine.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. it's funny because I recently had an experience where I went back to my college and I had my coach talk about me. And before I had my soccer coach, and before I'd gone on, I heard him, I even said to myself, I wonder if I was the Kim then that I am now, like to the core, like those truths to the core. Like I knew there was a lot of insecurities as a college student, all those things. And to hear him speak about these truths that I see in myself more clearly now, because I don't have that as much of those insecurities, it was mind blowing. It was humbling. But it was also nice validation of like, okay, like you showed up then, even in that hard time in your life to now. So I appreciate this, because I love this exercise.
Right. And one thing sometimes we don't realize it because we're in it. We're in a crucible. Everything's trying to teach us something. And when we go through that, I have 7 examples of going through a different crucible, our hero's journey, right? And if we use that mindset of the hero's journey, that I'm being asked to step into the unknown. It could be simple thing as fixing my blue tractor, just like Wayne has. I gotta change the oil. I gotta do the all these different things. And that's new to me because it's a new tractor. Those are simple things. Or I got a crucial conversation coming up on Thursday with one of the richest native corporations on the planet, and I only have 2 hours. So that's an opportunity, right? But if I go in there with my truths and I know my truths, I show up different. I step different. I got the energy now. It's almost coming out of me right here, just like this. My head's getting a little tingly because I know when I know that I'm going to show up with somebody who cares. And if I just show up nice and calm and not too excited and ease into it, I'm going to be fine. That's a heck of an amazing way to go into one of the most important conversations of your career. That's going to happen to me on Thursday, right? So up till now. So this key, that is, if you know what you know, you say, I'm good enough. It's almost like that Saturday Night Live skit. I'm good enough. And damn it, people like me. Remember that one? Yeah, remember that? And so.
What about this? What about when Snoop Dogg got on the Walk of Fame or the Star? Why am I drawing a blank on that? He thanks everyone, and he's like, and I want to thank me. I want to thank me for all my hard work. I love that.
There's a heck of a message there, a huge message. So we'll open up to questions, I guess, now that there's no questions regarding the exercise. And again, I will send this, I will send you the PDF form of a participant packet, and then there'll be an exercise there. And I encourage you to either do it again or read it over. And if you want to gift it to somebody, go right ahead.
Mike, I have a question that you said, do we have questions that are more like asking you to give clarity around something? And I have kind of a clarity question, and it is, so it sounds to me like the way I'm hearing you is the truths, these truths that I'm looking at are both, one, an acknowledgement, like some of the truths might just seeing the power in who I am naturally, like acknowledging these things that are innate and seeing them as powerful, and seeing how all my experiences add up and are good, and I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Like it's like that. But and then I also hear you saying, and I think in your book, the client that you use as kind of the combination of all clients is we would call it like aspirational, almost like aspirational values, or who I want to be, even though I'm not always that. Is that right? Is that, and when you say which of these truths am I not current? I want to work on a truth, and so that sounds like aspirational and defining who I want to be versus how I'm being.
Correct. And that's part of the adventure coaching, right? So it's through all this, and I've seen people be the best they possibly can be, or go through that transformational change in the outdoors. So here I am all around the world doing adventure stuff. And then I am asking great questions. Then I have to take the leap of how can I marry them together to create a life. This is right out my back door. This is right out my window. Create a life that is the best thing I could possibly do, or the best I can do with my wife and my boys, right? So that's where Adventure Coach comes to. Some people come to me and they're just grabbing their computer. I don't know what my truth is. I'm so far ahead to thinking I got to put 2 more satellites in the air or in space before the end of the year. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know. So then that's what the value of adventure coaching is where you take them out of their comfort zone, away from their phones, away from the email, away from the idea that they got to go do these things because the world will end if they don't. Much like Ian in the book, he decides, yes, I'm going to do something for myself because I haven't done anything for myself for 14 years. And that's a true statement. So he ultimately comes to Alaska to do that. And the experiences they have, I wrote about it just jokingly, but seriously. And it's an amazing experience because there's so much quiet that it's uncomfortable at first. And then they kind of get warmed up to it. And then they start to see and they have those opportunities. And the woman I just took out just recently, she was a neuroscientist. And she came out because she wanted to leave that chapter behind in order to arrive well, to be able to sit with it and say, yes, this is what I want to do. And she had an amazing, amazing experience. I get texts all the time saying, thank you for that. I mean, Ian, I just talked to Ian, the real Ian. I talked to him just the other day, and he knows life happens, but he gets back to his truth. And he makes decisions based off of that. And guess what? Better things happen. Now, when they don't, people know at least you're coming from a place of honesty. I am true. This is who I am. And people have more.
Mike, I want to ask you a question. And I sense kind of from Kim's comments and that maybe I misinterpreted. But when the question was, what's true about you? Mm-hmm. Right? Is that right so far? Was that your exact words? What's true about you?
Yeah, what's true about you?
Okay. And I took that, and I don't know if that's my age or place in my life, but there might have been a time when I would have answered that with qualities, which is some of the what I think you're maybe asking for is qualities. What's true? Well, I'm empathetic, or I'm whatever really roots you, whatever your sacred truths are. But my first response was, what's true about me? I love my wife. That was the first thing that came to my, and I then began to just like, what do I enjoy? What do I love? Who do I love? What do I love doing? But as I heard you kind of guiding us through those questions, then I thought, oh, well, I must be doing this wrong. So let me write down some other qualities about myself. And then, I've sort of been sitting with that while I'm listening to you and to Kim and to Wayne. And I'm not even, I guess I'm not sure. I don't think there's a right or wrong way to answer the question. So it's not like I'm asking you to tell me what I should or shouldn't have done, but more like, what was your intention when you asked the question? Was your intention for it to be qualities about us? Or because when you ask me what's true about me, it takes me to a place of things, and it doesn't take me to like a universal truth. Doesn't mean I don't think I'm honest or whatever, but what's true about you? Well, I just, I love my wife. I mean, I love hiking. I love being outside, but those aren't really necessarily like advertisements, like if that doesn't help, it doesn't help clients, for example. I don't know. So I'm wondering what with the exercise, what was your intention? And I'll stop at that point.
To have conversations like this. Because if you're thinking it, then everyone else is, right? So, or maybe another way I could have put it is like, okay, so imagine Wayne and I are talking after this call, and I say, hey, it was so great to have Tom on there because Tom just tells it to you straight. That's the truth about how that's the truth between Wayne and I. We know that to be true, that you don't pull punches. There's no kick gloves with you. And that's the value you bring to the team in our relationship. Right. So there's another example. So the truth can be whatever serves you best that you want, much like Kim said, that her coach stated things about her that she knows she is now today as well. Is that right, Kim? Yep. So she didn't know it at the time, but now she's an older woman. She looks back on it and she knew that she was always hardworking, willing to put the extra time in, a team player, wasn't a ball hog. I don't know, things like that. And at that time, we don't know. But at the current moment, what are the things that are non-negotiable? Your love for your wife's non-negotiable. Your love for the outdoors, I'm my best when I'm outdoors, non-negotiable. So maybe it's semantics, qualities and truths, quality and truths. However, I believe when you utilize the word truth, it changes the value or the power from quality. I can turn that quality off and take that off anytime. But a truth isn't something that's not going to change, right?
Okay, that helps. And actually, getting back to something that Kim said, as Kim, as you were talking about your coach and what your coach was saying about you, that really moved me emotionally, because that just I think we can all imagine, whatever is on our list. Wouldn't it be cool if unprompted someone described us in that way,
Right.
attributed all these qualities to us that maybe we didn't know everybody else saw it? And it's like it's just so cool to be seen in that way. I mean, you were seen by your coach in a way that maybe you didn't realize. And so Mike, when you said, ask a trusted advisor or a trusted person, is this me? I mean, what Kim did, she didn't take that step. She just let him start talking. She didn't say, well, what do you think? What do you think about me? What do you think about these qualities? He just spits them out. That's like an incredible validation. And so I can only, I'm with you to that extent, Kim, that I think, wow, wouldn't that would feel great. And I feel great for you that you had that experience.
Thanks, Tom. I took away from that, you think you leave an impact, but then after you hear something like that, I think we'll get this from the exercise, even with it prompted, is like, oh my, like I left an imprint. Like impact, I felt that, just because of just the quote unquote like accolades, but the imprint, I was like, okay, that's something I want to continue. Mike, to your words, like I want that to be my truth, regardless if it's a stranger or a client or a family member or a loved one. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So the general experience that I'm hoping that people have in this conversation and the workshops and the coaching that I offer, or as you have conversations with others, is people, much like Tom, is thinking, well, is that a quality or is that a truth? And what's the difference? And then Kim has a different experience. It starts that conversation about, at least in your mind, how am I showing up? Am I showing up and leaving that impact that if somebody did unprompted, would say these things about you? And when you come from a place of those truths, you make better decisions, and those better decisions impact people in a more positive way, creates a better community, etc.
Yeah, that actually is very helpful. I'm not sure what I was looking for when I asked those questions, other than maybe some clarity, but I see now where even qualities, like I'm pretty sure that people who know me, if they were to describe me, especially if they'd seen me with Trish, would say he really loves his wife. And that makes me emotional just to think about. So I guess I do show up that way.
Right. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Here's the next, let's take it to the next level. What would they say about your business? What would they say about their experience walking through your door? I know that Buddy is a chiropractor. Kane, I apologize, I don't know what your business is, but there seems to be somebody over your shoulder, so watch out.
I'm a heating and air conditioning contractor, and that's a dummy behind my shoulder. He's dressed up like our technician should be every day. So he's our mascot.
Right. Great.
He's not a dummy.
Well,
Not a dummy. That's not his truth.
in body, not in spirit.
Right. It's like, okay, so what would you hope people say? Is it aligned with everything? That's the next level up, right? So
Mhm.
what is your workers creating for that person, you know? If an old lady calls and says my heat's out, and unfortunately you just have to, you know, light up her pilot light, you charge her a call out fee and 175 service fee, you know, I don't know. Those things.
Mike, I had a question. I had a question about, and it kind of was in conjunction with what Tom was just saying, in the sense of like, I didn't know what I was coming with the intent on that, but I got more out of it. You had said when you went to, I was in the car, so I couldn't write it down. When you were going to Russia, one of your coaches or mentors had said, go there to find, not to what you hear. What was that message again? Do you remember?
Yeah,
sorry.
it was look for what you find, not what you hear, because I was the first person in the whole community that was going to Russia right after Perestroika, right? So it's like, you're doing what? You know, and I had to raise the money to go there. And I had keg parties, literally keg parties, $5 a cup. I went to all the restaurants and asked them to donate food, and they did, you know, and I raised enough money to go. But everybody was like naysaying. And when I hitchhiked from New York to Alaska, I mean, literally 85% of the people said I was going to end up dead, raped, or dead and raped in a ditch. So I was always going to end up in a ditch. No matter what happened, I was going to end up in a ditch, you know. But yeah, so as I went across America, I remember I was outside of Chicago, just my thumb out, going, "What the hell am I doing?" You know, I made it one night away from home. I can go home now. I showed them I could, you know. So it's when what kept me going was the truth that I wanted to be courageous to be able to teach my students, the 10th grade global history students, that you can believe in the kindness of others. And kindness comes in all forms. And you have to have the courage to accept that different form. You have the courage to ask for a basic need, food.
So, Mike, any advice on how we can look backwards and reflect on our own stories and pull some of our truths out of those?
A very good question. Thank you. I would ask you to do what you just said, look back into those defining moments, whether you be driving in a car or out in the tree stand or wherever you may be. And if you had your top 10 stories or top 5 stories, is there a thread through them that is similar, like courage or integrity or intention, much like mine? And then you can find those. And then or when you think of a positive experience for yourself or others, what was it that caused that? How were you showing up? And then think of the opposite of that, being negative. You know, I didn't show up properly in that experience. So the experience for them was negative, and I made out pretty good.
Kane, let me ask you a question. That's a great question, by the way. I really like the way you framed it too, which was, you know, how, if I got it right, it was sort of, how do I take the experiences I've had in my life and use them? Is that sort of where you were going with that, Kane?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how do I tie, we all have stories. We all have.
Yeah.
And I love that the first thing Mike just said was defining moments. That puts some really good words to our stories, right? It makes the story, it makes you go specific on a story, right? It makes you, go ahead.
So your stories, and we all have these stories of, we'll call them our greatest hits, you know, like the coolest thing I've ever done, the best thing, that time I took my cape off and put it in a puddle so a little old lady could cross the street without getting her feet wet, all that stuff, right? And then we have this other list of the times that we stepped in a huge pile of shit. And then the story is how to get out of that. How did I get that off my shoe? What did I do next? And so to answer your question, in my life, what I've done is like I'm not even talking about clients. I'm just talking about dealing with other humans. I love to use the stories of my biggest mistakes as the story of how I got from point A to point B. I found in business, this is almost, I just can't think, this happens so often where making a big mistake can be an incredible client attraction tool. I mean, it's to the point where you almost want to make a mistake on purpose. Because if you do it and you get out of it, you apologize, you make it right, you do whatever needs to happen, you've now got a client for life or a friend for life. And so to your question, I'd like to think that you could go through your greatest hits list on the plus and the minus side and use those exact stories, because you know them. You'll never I could put you in front of 1,000 people and you could tell those stories. You wouldn't need notes, right? But use those stories with your employees, with your clients. If you think about it, those stories, the lessons in those stories there's a chance to use them almost every day. And that can be your, calling card, almost to your, on your, that's how you show up. Your lessons are hopefully on your shit list. The stupidest, things you've ever done are your greatest teachers anyway. So that I kind of maybe took the mic from Mike, but took the mic from Mike. How do you?
There you go.
I'm just a genius here. But if that helps, because I know for me, I do that all the time. I look in my life for the times that I do stupid things or things that I've done that I regret. And I got a lot of them. Most of them have served me as stories that I've then told about, okay, I did that. You've done something that's stupid too, right? Right. Okay. Well, this is how I got out of it. This is how you can get out of it. This is how you can rise above it. So if that helps.
Cool. Thank you.
Melissa, what is your business?
I'm a promotional products expert, branded merchandise done right with impact and makes a difference. And I'm sitting here looking at my notes and I don't really have a question. I just have my mind.
Right, understood. No problem.
So I got to tell you, when I was reading your book, I wrote this down to tell you, like, when I read and something speaks to me, I have to stop, right? So I'm holding it and I put it down. I'm like, that's no way. So when your dude wrote, when he said, I haven't done anything for myself in 14 years. It's like, Wayne, when you showed me that video and I made you keep pausing it. Cause I'm like, no way. So when I was a kid, I suffered from sleep paralysis, which is a sleep disorder where you wake up, but you can't move. It's horrible. And I suffered from it for a long time before I knew that it was a thing. And it was a terrible part of my life. Until finally one day I got to a doctor and he kind of put his hand on my shoulder and he was like, I'm really sorry you suffered and you have this disorder, take this medicine and you'll be all right. And I did, and I am. And that moment of like, oh no, like this guy hasn't done anything for himself in 14 years. And my truth is I take no self-care. I never have, even as a kid. I can remember when my mom and dad would go out and instead of playing or being naughty, I would be cleaning. So when they came home, they would be happy. And I just, it all adds up, right? So when I was a kid, my nickname was Snoopy because I asked a lot of questions. When I was, my brother died tragically and the school took pity on me and sent this city kid to Harvard Model Congress, and they had me be a reporter because I asked a lot of questions and I won an award. And I can remember thinking, I don't deserve to win this award. I stood up, they called my name, Melissa Miller, for reporting. I was Strom Thurmond, the oldest guy. And I stood up, I wrote on OSHA and how OSHA was going to make impact, and it was whatever. And I won this award, and I didn't think I deserved to win because I was around all these white collar people. And here was this city kid that picked up turnpike change and photocopied my books and returned them constantly because I couldn't afford it. And so what are my truths? I hear all this and it's kind of getting repetitive. And I'm like, that's so crazy to me that these people in your book that you've coached, and even you, that I'm in good company. And it's just, it's a lot for me to take in, because this phase of my life is kind of like, I know a lot of people that got themselves out from here to there, but I don't know a lot of people that got themselves from here to here. In fact, I probably know zero, except the company I'm with now. And so I'm just in this like constant, like mind blowing, like what? So Tony Robbins was someone I was following, and he talked about, he told me, I read his book, but he was talking to me, to write down these 5 top moments of my life and find some similarities. And Kim, we spoke about this, and I took your advice and I brought my speaker to try on my wedding dresses. And most of the time I was, I did buy one, by the way. Most of the time, whenever I've been in good moments, I've been outside and there's been music. And most of the time it's live music, but music all the same. And so to hear Wayne, when I chose to join his camp, it was probably the deciding factor, among many other things, was his keep talking about this outdoors passion. And then I read your book and I'm like, that's why Wayne likes him, because he likes to be outside. And then I like hear Tom and he's like outside. I'm like, all these minds want to be outside. What is with this outside thing? And then you said, and I guess here's a question, besides I just threw up all my thoughts on you guys, was that you said, take them out of their space and then they'll think. And I was like, have you done any research? I guess here's a question about why is this outside thing resonating with Tony Robbins, Wayne, you, Tom? What is it with outside? And that's my whole mental on you.
Thank you for sharing, Melissa.
Sure.
And if I may, you're okay.
Mm,
You'll be all right.
thanks.
You've been that way for a long time. So
Yeah.
patience and grace.
I wrote it down, patience and grace.
Yeah. Why the outside? Because we're away from our phones, distractions, and we have to be by ourselves. We have to not by ourselves, we have to be with ourselves. That is more scary than the idea that there's a bear behind every bush in Alaska, or that you're going to get rained on and you're never going to get wet, or you're never going to get dry. You're never going to get fed. And I see it happen with people. It comes in different ways. And I always enjoy it. It's always like sit back and watch, because they always walk around with their cell phone like this going, we are out here in the middle of nowhere. Oh, really? You think so? We just flew an hour in a helicopter and we just landed here. You think you got cell service? And then they're like, okay, so now what? So that's why I ask a lot of my clients not even to bring their phone if they want to take pictures, to get another phone. And my last client, a cybersecurity CEO who sold his company for $400 million, says, and I say this because he says it all the time. He's like, that was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. I go, what? Being out here in the bush? He goes, being away from my phone. You know, this guy's went public with his company. He sold a huge amount of money, paid, I mean, huge successes. And that was the scariest thing he's ever done in his life. He said, be without my phone for that many days. And you know what happens? They start to live. Sometimes they do it really, really quickly. Like the next day when they wake up, they're like, yes, this is awesome. And then they become one with themselves. They hear their breathing. These are things people say to you, I never really heard myself breathe. I always heard myself hold my breath.
Yeah.
These are true things. Or I've never just sat and understood why a campfire is so amazing. I'm just always worried about my kids burning themselves with s'mores, right? But a campfire can do so much. Or I didn't realize that a hot dog over a fire tastes better than any hot dog I've ever had at any baseball stadium in the world, right? So we owe it to ourselves to find that. Now, you don't have to come to Alaska to do that. You can go on a walk right outside your door and just take in and notice something. Leave your phone behind. Notice the birds. I mean, we have a resident buddy out there right now. He's just noticing what's happening and noticing which way the wind's blowing so he can expect the way the deer is going to come, in theory, right? He's not going to come from downwind. Right? I mean, I offer, if there's any, my gift, I hope I have given you all a gift today. And I hope that gift blossoms into something even more. Allows you to have that crucial conversation from a place of your truth. I hope that it's given you an opportunity to just to be here for yourself, with yourself, so that you can give of yourself from a place of truth.
Hey, Mike, we got like 15 minutes. So I wanted to ask you about, we've read your book and we kind of see what you do, but would you tell us about your business a bit? Like what's your business build story? And I'm gonna ask a compound question. Tell us about that, how we can help. And then I'm curious, where does doubt get in your way with what you've got, this vision and you're building this thing? Is doubt or those old fears, are they getting in the way anywhere? So I think there's 3 questions within that, but talk a bit about you and your work.
Thank you. When I was working as a leadership and communication facilitator, I had a mentor. His name was Mal Morgan, and he unfortunately just passed away recently from COVID. And he and I shared the same birthday, but he was an older Louisiana guy. And he says, you should just do this out. You should just take our people out there into the bush doing what you're doing. Because I'm a big game hunting guide for 24 years now in Alaska. You should take those people out there to do this. You should do it here. You should do retreats out there. And I was like, there's no way people are going to do that. I mean, as a guide, I was making $250 a day. No one's going to pay that kind of money, $250 a day to do that, or $1,000 a day because 100. So that was the very beginning of how it happened. And I always pushed it aside, like that'll never work, that'll never work, until I started seeing that things do add up. And then the things I really am good at and really passionate about, people enjoy. People want to understand how to be more comfortable, not only in the outdoors, but ultimately that learning how to be comfortable in the outdoors allows them to be comfortable in their own skin, because they have all those distractions away and they really let go of things and take on new things. So how did I build my business? Well, I had to rob Peter to pay Paul along the way, right? I was a really good big game hunting guide for Dall sheep, moose, caribou, wolves, and bear. And I was really good at it on horseback. I never lost a client at all, never had a client that got hurt. So I was like, well, I'm pretty good at this. And people like me when I'm out here, and I like myself when I'm out here far better. And then I met my wife, and she was cool with me being out in the bush, for 55 days at a time. And so we say, okay, when I came to with Tom's mastermind, I was like looking to become, what can I do to differentiate myself? Do I need another certification as a master certified coach, or do I need to do this, or what do I need to do? And as Tom and Chad and you weigh in with your questions, what is it I want to create? Well, the answer was right in front of me every year in the summer of Alaska or out in Colorado on the hills and the Flatirons. And only till I had a group of people much like Tom and Chad and Wayne and others that allowed me to say, you know what, I can make this happen, to help with that self-doubt, to hold me accountable. You guys would hold me accountable, and I would hate it. Tom's going to get on my ass. That was how it was when the call hit the button. So how did I build it? Well, the writing of the book supported me on it. And then what I did, I tested the model. I had friends come up A lot of my hometown friends came through, and all of them did something in the bush with me. And then I started having my coaching clients come, and I asked them just to pay for their flight and then also the logistics. Like, so we went fly fishing, world-class fly fishing, and they paid for that, and I coached them along the way, and they still say it's one of the most amazing things they've ever done. And then my lovely wife a while ago said, "You're no longer doing this for free, and you're going to have to charge them no more half price, no more this. People got to pay." And now I have kids, and I was like, "Yeah, you're absolutely right." So it took a couple kicks to get there, some tough questions, some people to hold me accountable, a community, a community, because in this community right now, we're all at different stages, but we all have the same result. We all want the same result. We want to be the best we possibly can be. Right? So that's how I did it. And just took the skills, like really look in the mirror and say, okay, what are my skill sets? I'm really good with logistics. I have really good relationships within the state of Alaska. People like me. If I call them on the phone, they'll answer and they'll say, "How can I help, Mike?" And you know why that is? Because I've done that for them. Right. And I have a support system that people around me, I understand that come summertime, although I'm going to branch out into the winter, I'm out in the bush. Selective times, because most of the other times reserved for my family. So that was the first one. The second question was self-doubt. Yeah, I was like, who's going to pay for this? And honestly, what I hear now is even from my 2 clients this past summer, I didn't charge them enough. Believe it or not, that's what they said afterwards. And I still circled back with them. I just recently sent them a thank you gift, another one. And Wayne taught me that, the value of a thank you gift. Second one, not just one, but a second one. I still have the keychain. I can go get it right now. I have the keychains that he sent me. The value of the thank you gift, they come back to you and say, Mike, I've been thinking about it. I asked the question, how has that time impacted you? He goes, it gets just bigger and bigger and bigger, the impact. It just gets more and more and more and more. Usually it goes the opposite, right? It's like, oh yeah, that was awesome. And now I'm down. One of my clients, unfortunately, it goes like this for them, but most of them are just like this, the value. I'm going to do a retreat with his leadership team this year as well. 4 of his leadership teams going on. So I can handle. So what is my business? Ultimately, I am a coach. I coach virtually, face-to-face, and I do workshops. And also as an a la carte, I can meet my clients anywhere in the world because I'm confident that I can do it. I've been in there and I've done that. And I can meet them and do an adventure coach, whether it be in Jordan for, Wadi Rum, or you want to go to check out the castles of Scotland, or you want to cigar factories in Nicaragua, or you want to go to Mexico and check out Chichen Itza, or you want to go to Tikal in Guatemala, or you want to do the Ica Trail in Peru, whatever have you. Or if you come to Alaska, I can meet them and do the adventure coach. Why do they do it? There's one intention. You don't have to come. Why do they come? Well, there has to be an intention of why they are coming there. Right? So we can work on it. And the coaching conversations aren't all day, every day. It's probably one question at probably the worst time you fall in the river. And it's like, okay, so what did you learn from that? And is this a metaphor for your life right now? And then I leave them for it and I get ahead of them about 50 yards and let them be by themselves as we hike down the trail, or we're up on a mountain peak and the wind is just hitting them hard. And I'm obviously hunkered down behind the rock, no wind on me at all, but they choose to be in the wind. I say, so is this how you live your life? You choose to be in all the getting bashed by the wind? Well, that's what I do. Virtual, face-to-face workshops and adventure coaching. How can you help me? If you enjoyed the book, keep that book, buy another one, hand it to somebody. And also, how can you help me? Is just take a time for yourself today. Just go outside, as Miss Melissa says. Go outside and just enjoy that for a moment and be patient with yourself and graceful and say, you know what, I'm good enough and people like me. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, I just have to give you this one little bit of feedback. And it's
Please.
this, you asked, you know, why do people do this?
Mhm.
And as someone who's going to be out with you next year.
Yeah.
I did it because I trust you.
Thank
I
you.
mean, as you said, I would trust you if you said, yeah, we're going to go wherever, place you'd never been. I would trust you. And so that's one piece. I don't think they're necessarily, I mean, yes, they're doing it because they want to get something out of it, but why did they choose you is my question. And the answer is they chose you because they trusted you. And secondly, I want to absolutely, as someone who's already, this can't hurt me because I've already paid, but as someone who, I want to back up the people who said you don't charge enough. You don't charge enough, period.
Right.
And here's what you'll know when people start saying no, but you're not getting no's.
It's true.
So you're just not charging enough. It's an incredible experience. I haven't even, I mean, when you just said that you now do it in the wintertime, after we hang up, I'm calling to see, well, why should I wait till July?
Yeah. Well,
You know,
-27.
I'll just get more clothes and I'll come up in January.
Yeah.
It's like, give yourself the credit for all, I mean, that's an amazing book. There aren't too many books like that are self-published that are that good. And it's amazing. The stories are amazing and you are amazing. And so like, just trust, just for me, when I look at you and I listen to you, just trust just comes flying out of you.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting you bring that up. Thank you for that. Dr. Kate Pate, my client from this last summer, she's actually creating a video, much like Wayne and you guys all created, sitting down in a chair, why she came, the trust aspect, because she's a woman, I'm a man, you know, whatever have you, you know, and she just wants to put that out there. She only came because of my background and that she trusts me. So thank you for that, Tom. I actually have more women clients than I do men, just because that I have in the queue for coming out here.
That's great.
Yeah.
But to be clear, another reason why Tom Rubin should come in the winter and not in the summer, Mike, is because in the summer there's a lot of bears, and in the winter they're hibernating, right? And
Correct.
so from a risk point of view, he should come in the winter.
Yeah, we got snow machines. Yep, we got 4 snow machines. We go out to the bush. I actually prefer the winter time because it's a lot more fun, in my opinion, for me, because you can go anywhere you want as opposed to, you know, let's go around bushes and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
We have Tom goes hiking in Idaho, and I get videos of the aggressive deer and cows that are on the trail. And I told Mike he has to let you know about all the risk factors. Did you hear that part about how he's going to hike 50 yards in front of you?
Yeah.
So he's already
did that for you.
Start.
I did that for you, Wayne. Yeah.
I can handle the emasculation, just so we all know. Yes, I am scared shitless of all wildlife, regardless of size or, you know, whether it looks like Bambi. They all feel like, you know, aggressors to me.
Right. Well, and to end this, or this was the last, what can you do to help me? I know that you have a community, and that community is there to serve you. But if there's something I can do for you, you've given me the gift of your time, talent, and treasure with your experience and your stories and just your presence. So if there's any way in which I can give back, please do not hesitate to reach out. I will be sending a participant guide that some of it we've already kind of talked to. There's some extra stuff there. If you have any questions about that, that's fine. But if in any way I can support you or anyone you know, please reach out. And also, I just give one last thing. If you ever come to Alaska, my wife and I, we have an extra vehicle that we let people rent or borrow or just basically borrow to give back.
Yeah, and you said earlier that I taught you about giving gifts, but I want to say that so Mike gave me, but he and I had dinner one night in Colorado. I was there working with Jack Justice, and Mike, you may not even remember this. We met up in Lyons and had dinner, and you gave me some venison jerky that a friend of yours had made. And not only did it wasn't like a pouch or a pack of jerky, Melissa, you'd love this. You told me the story of who made it and why it was important to you and why it mattered.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
little Ziploc baggies, and I was able to take those back home to me, to my son, and say, so you are forever the guy who had the jerky from the Native American man. That for Thomas, that's who you are. You're Alaska Mike. And so you're really a giver yourself, and you've done that for us today. And yeah, and we love the book. And a couple people have texted me here and said this guy's amazing. So thanks for being here. And then Mike, like stick around with us a bit. You're
Sure.
part of our world now, and
Thank you.
we love to be able to follow along. Some people may want to come, that's great. Some people may know somebody. All those things are wonderful. So yeah, we'll invite you in, and don't be a stranger. So
Yeah, I'm grateful. Is that meaning you want me to stay on this call now, or do you want me to come back to your business builders?
just we'll do a podcast episode together, and I'll just
okay.
keep you on emails with our group.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, am I wrong, right? Is he welcome anytime? It would be awkward if everybody
Ooh, agreed.
Yeah, then we can have
man.
we'll do one with Tom and I after he comes out to the bush.
Or what's left of it.
Yeah, I'll do the videos and stuff. Yeah, I had a camera crew come out with me with Dr. Kate Pate, and you'll start to see that on my social media. So where can you find me? I guess you can find me Mike Green Leadership on Instagram, Mike Green Leadership on Facebook, and such. So yeah, I'm gonna start posting a bunch of what Dr. Kate Pate went through, and then what my other client Chris Peterson went through. It's gonna start happening.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. And everybody, thank you so much for your contributions and vulnerability and stories. That really makes these sessions we have with coaches and authors just so much more powerful. So thanks for showing up.
Thank you for inviting me, Wayne, and thank you all for letting me be a part of this.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Thank
You bet. Okay, we'll see y'all soon. Go get them.
You guys.
Take care. Be well.